Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Duty's Daggers. Today I wanted to talk about the Chris Reeve Umnumzaan and why I think it's the best Chris Reeve knife. So I have a list here of some points, and then at the very end I'll actually give you some cons, some negatives that I think that the knife has. But even though there are a few little annoyances, I still think this is the best Chris Reeve knife. But let me know in the comments what you think. Wait until after you watch my video to give your opinion though, because I might change your mind. Maybe, we'll see. So, first point. Now, well, hold on. First, this is the Umnumzaan. There's also the Sebenza, which is kind of like the OG Chris Reeve knife. And then there's the Inkosi. There's some other ones, like the small folding knife and then some fixed blades. But that's kind of the main, like, what we're talking about, those three. As far as size, they are almost exactly the same. The large Sebenza has a 3.5-inch blade. The Umnumzaan has a 3.6-inch blade. And the large Inkosi has a 3.6-inch blade as well. So all the larges are just about the same. With the Inkosi and the Sebenza, there's a large and a small. With the Umnumzaan, there is only the large. So right around the same size. But the Umnumzaan has a lot of things, a lot of little bells and whistles, little cool features that the other ones don't have. Starting with that train of thought is the external stop pins that we have on the Umnumzaan. You can see those little beds where they fall into and go to sleep. Boop. They pop right into those little notches, and that stops the blade from overextending that way. So there's nothing on the inside, no stop pins whatsoever. They're all on the outside. Not only in the open position, but in the closed position, they're also used. You can see right down here, there's some little notches. Bam. So it also prevents the blade from closing too far. That's pretty cool for a few reasons. Number one, it just looks cool, I think. It's just cool. Number two, it's a more secure way to do a stop pin because you have 2 points of contact rather than just one in the middle. So in theory, it would prevent side-to-side movement, I don't know how much it really does, but it definitely does some good in that respect, I would say, for sure. And then also with the lockup, you have 3 points of contact securing the blade in the open position. You have a lock bar where the lock bar is wedged up underneath the tang of the blade, and you have both left and right contact up on the stop pins. Whereas with the regular stop pin, you'd have the lock bar and then just the one pin. So it's definitely a more secure way to lock out the knife. No one can argue that. And plus they look cool. So, no brainer. Second thing that the Umnumzaan has that no other Chris Reeve knife has is a little hidden glass breaker right here. I say hidden because in the open position, obviously you can't see it. And it's very not obtrusive at all. It's not like this big thing sticking out of the handle. It's just this little point that they have right there. It's never bothered me. I've never poked me or I've never wished it wasn't there ever. In fact, most of the time I don't even remember it's there. But it's there in case you ever need it. Break your way out of your car so you don't burn alive in there or something. I think that's a really cool feature. I actually just bought some little test glass panes to test glass breakers on. So I'm going to do a whole video on that, on glass breakers. And we'll definitely test this one out. Third is the over travel stop. It's the only Chris Reeve knife with an over travel stop. That prevents the lock bar from accidentally extending too far out this way and bending or breaking. Supposedly, Rick Hinderer was the guy to invent the over travel stop or lock bar stabilizer. I don't know if that's true. Well, no, he says he's invented the lock bar stabilizer, not necessarily the over travel stop But I don't see a difference between those two things. His LBS, lock bar stabilizer, on his knives, the XM18, looks exactly the same as this. It's just an over travel stop, so I don't know the difference there. Regardless, it's to prevent this lock bar from overextending out. Maybe it gets snagged on something, or you just accidentally push it over too hard one day, and then your lockup's not as secure anymore because you've lost some of that bend. I think most good heavy use knives should have over travel stops. Looking at you, McNeese. And those are kind of like the bells and whistles that the other knives don't have. The other one is a milled texture on the handle. No other, I won't say no other. The Sebenza and the Nkosi, the stock knives, don't come with any kind of texture. You can get the inlaid ones versus the plain Jane ones, but none of them have a texture milled into the handle. I've seen some special edition ones that have some kind of milling, but as far as like just the standard stock knives, Umnumzaan is the only one with texture, and it's got it on both sides. And I really like the pattern. I really like it. It's kind of iconic, It's not just a frag all the way. In fact, they could have kind of put another line here and made more little squares, but it almost looks sort of random. And I really, really like it. My next point is, I think it's the sexiest looking blade of all the Chris Reeve knives. We have this little harpoon notch right here, and then also this little dip for your thumb. And I really, really like how it's raised right here. The jimping part is raised above the handle. See how it's sitting up a little bit? Most knives, that would be just smooth, with this surface, flush with this. But it comes up a little bit. And I just think it looks really good. That's kind of the only benefit I can see. It gives, I guess it's a little bit higher for your thumb. That might help a little. But it mostly, I just think, looks really cool. And then this little dip right here to put your thumb in, that's really nice. And then we have this harpoon notch right here where this edge is actually sharp. Now, it doesn't have an edge bevel like here, but the edge comes to a sharp apex right here. Will it cut paper? I don't think so. Let's see. Not really, kind of. It won't slice it, but I mean, you could definitely open up a package with that edge. You could do a lot of things with it. I don't know its purpose, but it's there and it's kind of cool, right? So I just think it's but the Sebenza profile, blade shape, and handle is iconic, and I do really like it on the Sebenza. But I just think this Umnumzaan is a really, really, really good looking knife. Love the blade shape. Now they do make a Tanto as well, but I think this drop point is much sexier. Speaking of well, no, we'll get to that. That's a con. Next up, there is no notch taken out of this show side for the lock bar access. Both the Sebenza and Nkosi both have a little notch taken out here, which affects your ergos a little bit. The way they do the lock bar on the Umnumzaan is they bring the lock bar out. See that little lip there? They bring it out so you can get to it rather than carving out a notch in the handle. I think that's pretty cool. I really like the ergos on the Umnumzaan. Your finger goes, your index finger goes right there, so you're not bothered by this lock bar sticking out. Right there, and then your next fingers just go right on the other side of it. So you never feel that it's there. But it is. Now, there's also a con with this, and it is this lip right here. See how they kind of hollowed out the kind of the face of that lock bar? That created this little ridge that if you're just taking the knife out of your pocket to do some cutting a couple times a day, you're going to be fine. But if you're like fidgeting with it, opening and closing it, you're going to start to notice that feels a little bit sharp on your finger. I think they would, I don't know how to exactly fix that. Maybe round this edge a little bit more. I'm not sure. But that can become a little sharp. Let's see, what's next? I think that's most of my points. Now for the cons, that was one of them, this little sharp notch edge thing. The other one was, this does not come in a sheep's foot version, which the Sebenza and the Inkosi do. They have their sheep's foot blade shapes, which is really cool. I don't own one. I would like to own, I think, a sheep's foot Inkosi at some point. I think it's a really good looking knife. So that's I guess that's a con. You know, you can't get the Umnumzaan in sheep's foot. What do they call the sheep's foot? They have a name for it. I can't remember right now. But yeah, they only have tanto and drop point with the Umnumzaan. So I think it's the best CRK, and that's just my opinion. You can have a different one, obviously. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Is it the best CRK? It's definitely the most heavy duty. I don't think anyone can argue that. With the external stop pins, the over travel stop, I think it's definitely more heavy duty. And mostly because of the lockup, you know, the blade I don't think is any more heavy duty than a Sebenza, maybe. I think the blade stock thickness is about the same. Super deep hollow grind on all their knives, which make them really good cutters. They're not that thin behind the edge. In fact, this one's on the thicker side. But because the hollow grind is so deep, it sort of compensates for that. So yeah, I really like the Umnumzaan. It's my only Chris Reeve knife at the moment. I sold my small Sebenza. I liked it, but I just wasn't carrying it that much. You know, that I have other small, lightweight knives that I prefer to carry over the Sebenza. So yeah, right now the Umnumzaan is the only my only one. This is a clip from Nice Guy Machine Co., a milled titanium clip. I think it looks great. I just, on my thick pocket seams on my Carhartts, it's a little tight up in here. It doesn't quite want to sink all the way. I can force it, but then I worry about bending the clip and stuff. So I wish this clearance was a little bit more. But I think it's a really good looking clip. And obviously the stock clip works really well. That's it. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. See you next time.